In the vast library of the Old Testament, a collection of stories, laws and prophecies that have shaped civilizations, First Chronicles stands out as a unique book, a book of restoration and hope, offering a fresh perspective on familiar narratives. It's not just a dry retelling of history filled with names and dates, but a purposeful reimagining, carefully crafted for a new generation, a generation seeking to understand their place in God's story. Specifically those returning from exile in Babylon, a traumatic period that reshaped their identity. These people were not just rebuilding physical structures, they were rebuilding their lives, their communities and their faith. They needed to remember their roots, the promises God had made to their ancestors, and how those promises still applied to them. First Chronicles became their anchor, a steadfast point of reference in a sea of uncertainty, connecting them to a sacred heritage, a lineage of faith that stretched back to Abraham and beyond. The book's context is one of profound loss and the slow, arduous process of renewal, a people returning to a land that was both familiar, filled with memories, and foreign, scarred by years of neglect. Rather than dwelling on past failures and the reasons for their exile, it strategically highlights the enduring covenant God made with David and the unbroken lineage of faith that flowed through his descendants. The narrative deliberately looks back with hope, emphasizing the positive aspects of their history, inspiring the community to rebuild not just their homes and cities, but also their spiritual lives, their connection to God. This rebuilding centered around proper worship practices and the unwavering promise of a future king descended from David's line. This is far more than a mere historical record. It's not just a list of events. It's a carefully constructed theological statement, a testament to God's enduring faithfulness and unwavering commitment to his people. Even in the face of immense hardship and seemingly insurmountable obstacles, God's redemptive plan continues to unfold. The book places a strong emphasis on the importance of proper worship, highlighting the temple's centrality in their lives and reaffirming the divine appointment of David's dynasty as the rightful rulers of Israel. Ultimately, it's a story of grace, of unmerited favor extended to a people who had strayed from God's path, reminding the people that their true identity, their sense of belonging, is firmly rooted in their restored relationship with God, the source of all hope and blessing. As we embark on this journey through its chapters, carefully examining its message, we'll encounter familiar stories from Israel's past, but told in a new light, with a renewed sense of purpose. The primary focus shifts away from the details of political turmoil and military conflicts, and towards a more idealized and inspiring portrait of King David, the Shepherd King. He is presented as the model leader, the quintessential example of a worshipper who sought God's heart. Ultimately, First Chronicles serves as a practical guide for a people seeking to rebuild their lives and their nation. It powerfully testifies that even from the most devastating ruins, from the ashes of despair, something truly beautiful, something profoundly holy, and something eternally significant can rise again, grounded in the unwavering faithfulness of the past and filled with the radiant hope of a brighter future. So, let's delve into the pages of First Chronicles and explore how this ancient book, written millennia ago, still speaks with power and relevance to us today, offering timeless wisdom for our own journeys of faith and restoration. First Chronicles opens not with drama, not with battles or grand pronouncements, but rather with something that might seem quite unexpected to the modern reader: names, genealogies stretching back, not just generations, but all the way back to Adam, the very first human. It's a comprehensive record, a sweeping overview of lineage. To us, in our fast-paced world, these lists may seem tedious, a dry recitation of unfamiliar names, but for the returning exiles, weary from years of hardship and displacement, they were vital, absolutely essential. Each name was a link, a vital connection to their heritage, a tangible piece of their identity. It was proof of belonging, a declaration of their rightful place, especially crucial after years of displacement and uncertainty. These genealogies validated tribal identity, confirming their place within the larger community of Israel. They authenticated priestly roles, ensuring the proper lineage for service in the temple, and perhaps most importantly, they established and confirmed the royal line of David, the lineage from which the future Messiah would come. They restored order and unity to a fractured society, providing a sense of continuity and shared history. They were powerfully reminding the people that, despite their trials, they were still one nation, united under God's covenant. More than just a social register, a list of names and families, these lists are a profound theological statement, a declaration of faith and purpose. They affirm that the God of Israel is not just a tribal deity, but the God of all creation, the Lord of all history. The genealogies show God's patient, unwavering work through generations, his commitment to his promises. They highlight God's faithfulness in preserving his people, protecting them, and guiding them through every trial and tribulation. They are a powerful testament to God's enduring sovereignty and unwavering faithfulness to his covenant. For the exiles, struggling to rebuild their lives and their nation, these names powerfully said, "You belong to something bigger than yourselves. Your history matters. Your identity is secure in God's plan." The genealogies, therefore, are not just an introduction, they are the very foundation for everything that follows in Chronicles. They are rooting Israel's story, and indeed the entire human story, in God's eternal purposes, his grand design for redemption. Each name, seemingly insignificant on its own, is actually a vital thread, intricately woven into the rich and complex tapestry of redemption. Therefore, far from being a barrier to understanding, an obstacle to overcome, these lists are the solid bedrock of hope, a firm foundation upon which the entire narrative is built. They set the stage, providing the essential context for the unfolding story of David, the establishment of the temple, and God's enduring covenant with his people. The genealogies begin with Adam, tracing humanity's story to Noah, then narrowing to Abraham. This universal beginning places Israel's story within the larger human story. God's concern is for all nations. From Noah's sons, the narrative maps the ancient world, then focuses on Shem, and ultimately Abraham. With Abraham, the story shifts to the chosen people, Israel. Jacob's 12 sons become the 12 tribes, the foundation of the nation. For the returning exiles, these names were a powerful reminder of unity and shared covenant. The Chronicle details each tribe, especially Judah and Levi, establishing roles and responsibilities. This record wasn't just historical, it was a blueprint for rebuilding the nation. The genealogies defined identity and order, ensuring the community could be restored according to God's design. Their past became the blueprint for their future. Among all the tribes, special attention is given to Judah, the royal line. The genealogy traces David's ancestry, reinforcing his divine legitimacy. For the post-exilic community, this was hope. God's promise to David still stood, even without a king on the throne. The Chronicle presents the Davidic line as stable and blessed, omitting the darker episodes to highlight God's covenant. The focus is on the monarchy's divine purpose, order, justice, and worship. This emphasis sets the stage for the rest of the book, centering on David's legacy. The message, God's faithfulness to David's line, is unbroken, anchoring hope for the future. After the genealogies, the story leaps to the end of Saul's reign. Saul's death is presented as the result of unfaithfulness, clearing the way for David. Unlike other accounts, 1 Chronicles shows a unified Israel anointing David as king. David's first major act is capturing Jerusalem, making it the political and spiritual heart of the nation. The city's conquest unifies the tribes and establishes a new center for worship. David's early reign is marked by strength, loyalty, and divine favor. Allies recognize his authority, and his victories are attributed to God's blessing. The narrative presents David as the ideal king, chosen, supported, and victorious by God's hand. His reign begins a golden era for Israel. As king, David secures Israel's borders through decisive victories. Each triumph is credited to God's help, fulfilling divine promises. David dedicates the spoils of war to the Lord, gathering resources for the future temple. Beyond warfare, he establishes a stable government, appointing officials and organizing the nation. He arranges the priests, Levites, and musicians, making worship central to national life. This order and devotion become a model for the post-exilic community. David's reign is portrayed as a golden age, politically secure, spiritually vibrant. Worship and governance are perfectly integrated under his leadership. Central to David's reign is the return of the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. The Ark, symbolizing God's presence, had been neglected for years. David's first attempt to move it fails due to disregard for God's commands, teaching a lesson in reverence. After correcting their approach, the Ark is brought to Jerusalem with great celebration. David leads the procession with joy and humility, establishing worship at the heart of the nation. Levites are appointed to minister before the Ark, setting a pattern for future temple worship. Jerusalem becomes not just the political, but the spiritual center of Israel. The event marks a new era. God's presence is central once more. Worship, joy, and obedience define the community's renewed identity. With peace established throughout the land, a sense of tranquility and prosperity settles over the kingdom. The battles are over, and the people can finally enjoy the fruits of their labor. David, in his wisdom and devotion, dreams of building a magnificent temple, a sacred place for God. He envisions a structure of unparalleled beauty and grandeur, a fitting tribute to the Almighty. But God, speaking through the prophet Nathan, reveals to David that he won't be the one to build it. Instead, his son Solomon, a man destined for peace, will undertake this sacred task. The reason is clear. David was a man of war, a leader forged in the fires of battle. The temple, a symbol of divine presence and harmony, would be built by a man of peace, a ruler known for his wisdom and diplomacy. Yet God makes an even greater promise, the Davidic covenant, assuring David that his dynasty will endure forever, establishing a lineage that will reign for generations to come. Despite not being able to build the temple himself, David dedicates himself wholeheartedly to preparing for its construction, gathering vast quantities of materials, including precious metals, timber and stone, and meticulously organizing the Levites, priests and musicians for their roles in the temple service. He meticulously draws up detailed plans, divinely inspired by God's Spirit, ensuring that every aspect of the temple is designed according to God's will. David carefully sets everything in order for Solomon, entrusting him with the resources, the plans, and the responsibility to bring the temple to fruition. In his final address to the people, David passionately charges Solomon and all the leaders of Israel to build the temple wholeheartedly, with unwavering dedication and commitment. David's true legacy is not merely the physical building itself, but the profound vision, meticulous preparation, and unwavering faith he instills in Solomon and the entire nation. He models a selfless leadership that prioritizes serving the next generation, ensuring the continuity of God's purposes. The groundwork is carefully laid, paving the way for a future filled with vibrant worship, spiritual growth, and abundant blessing for all. David's initial disappointment transforms into a solid foundation for hope, demonstrating that even setbacks can be stepping stones to greater achievements. Ultimately, the temple will stand tall and majestic, serving as an enduring testament to God's faithfulness and the fulfillment of his promises to David and his descendants. 1 Chronicles ends with David's final assembly, transferring the kingdom to Solomon. David exhorts Solomon and the leaders to be faithful and complete the temple. The people respond with unity and generosity, dedicating themselves to God's work. David's death is celebrated as the fulfillment of a faithful life. The chronicler's portrait is of the ideal king, warrior, worshipper, and servant of God. His true legacy is spiritual, a foundation for worship and hope. 1 Chronicles is more than history, it's a message of hope for those rebuilding. It reminds us of God's faithfulness, the importance of worship, and the promise of a future king. The story points forward to ultimate fulfillment in Jesus, the Son of David. As we close, let's remember, from the ruins, God builds anew through faith, hope, and his enduring promises.